Hello everyone, welcome back. Today I'm going to talk to you guys about the parts that are going to break on your AR-15 as you start running up a high round count. Okay, the first part that's going to start breaking is the trigger control group, and the second part is the extractor. Okay, now with the trigger control group, basically every time you pull the trigger, you have a hammer and you have a trigger. What happens is, as you press the trigger, it comes up. There's a sear there. It releases the hammer and it goes forward. So you have a very fine, small area that is continually, wearing against itself. Okay, so that's the trigger and the hammer, and also the disconnector. If you are one of those people that holds the trigger down as you press, so that you can get that follow through, that's also going to, the disconnector is also going to start wearing down. And what I found is that, I got about 23,000 rounds on this gun, and the trigger control group went bad at around 10,000 rounds, and then it went bad again at 20,000 rounds. Okay, and what would happen is, as I would shoot, right, I would press the trigger and it would not reset. So basically, I would press it, let go, and I just had a dead trigger. I'm pushing it, and essentially the disconnector was not letting go of the hammer, of the trigger, or whatever there. So it was just getting stuck. Now, a quick fix to that is, if you're shooting and it gets stuck like that, just put the gun on safe and take it off. And what I found is that it would release that. Okay, so and usually I could get, I could fire off a bunch of rounds after that, until it got hung up again, until it gets stuck, and then again I would have to put the safety on, take the safety off, and for whatever reason that would release it. Okay, so that's a quick fix while you're shooting the gun. If you need to keep shooting, just put it on safe, take it off. Okay, and then what you want to do is, as soon as you get a chance, just change the whole trigger, the trigger control group out. I've got here ALG triggers. They're not expensive. They're something like $35, $40, maybe $50. I don't even remember, but they're somewhere in that area. If you've got more expensive trigger groups, perhaps, instead of it breaking at 10,000 rounds, maybe it'll go 12,000 or 15,000. But the point is that you have a part that's, you have pieces there that are wearing against each other, and it's a really fine, small area. So it's going to wear out, and as soon as that area wears out, it's not going to work. It's like, just to give you an example, here I have a bolt carrier, and you can see that there's wear over here in the corner, and there's wear over here from going back and forth over the hammer. There's a little wear over here on the sides, and it doesn't matter because that's not a critical area. But the point is, if you've got a big chunky piece of metal like this that's showing obvious wear, you know that, if you have a very fine area, like the sear, right, like where the sear meets the hammer, where the two meet and release, you know that that's going to be wearing, and because it's such a fine area, it's going to affect the operation of the gun. Now, for a gun like this, for a training gun, I mean, do I change the trigger control group in advance? No. I mean, I just keep shooting the gun, and at the point that it stops working, I change it then, because it doesn't matter. This is a training gun. If this was a gun that my life depended on it, yes, I would treat it differently. I would probably change the trigger control group maybe every 8,000 rounds, if not sooner. Okay. Now, the other part that I have noticed that breaks about every 10,000 rounds is the extractor. Both at about 10,000 rounds and at about 20,000 rounds, the claw completely broke off, and also the pin, the extractor pin that holds it in place inside the bolt, was also broken in half. Now, I don't know if it broke as a result of the extractor claw breaking, or if the pin broke first and that caused the extractor to break. I mean, I don't know in what order that happened, but I just know that the extractor broke and it would not pull out the case. Now, in both cases, I was running, when it broke, I was running the gun hot and dirty, but I had been doing that throughout the whole life of the gun. Okay, but I think at about 10,000 rounds, on that one day that I was, doing back-to-back magazines, that caused the, I mean, that kind of pushed it over the edge, okay? And the extractor broke. The other thing that I found is at 10,000 rounds and at about 20,000 rounds, the gas rings also went bad. Now there's a test, right? If you extend the bolt out of the bolt carrier and you just stand it up, it should be able to just stand on its own. If your gas rings are bad, what will happen is when you put it on the table, it'll just collapse down. So at about 10,000 rounds and at about 20,000 rounds, the gas rings went bad. So I changed those out. Okay. So that's something that you got to watch out for. Now, I have never had the cam pin break, okay, but a lot of people have reported that their cam pins breaking. I've never experienced that. Other people have reported the bolt actually breaking in half. The bolt is this piece over here that goes in and out. That's the actual bolt. Okay, this here is the bolt carrier, and this is a high stress area because what happens is when you pull the trigger, right? Right, so you pull the trigger, releases the hammer, bolt comes out, bolt comes out the barrel, gas comes up, pushes back, it comes back, and it hits your gas key over here, right? And if this is not properly staked, that will cause a lot of stress over here. I did have one bolt carrier where the gas key here started coming loose, but I only saw that one time, and I don't think that one had been properly staked. So if it's properly staked, this should not be an area that comes loose. But what's happening is the gas comes back, and it actually drops down into the bolt inside this expansion area here, right? And what happens is when it drops down, that gas basically pushes the bolt forward. So basically it creates pressure, pushes it forward to unlock it. And what's happening is every time that happens, right, that cam pin is slamming against the carrier right there. So that's stressing the crap out of it. And naturally the bolt on the inside is also stressed because that's what's stopping this, right? That's what's stopping this from completely flying out, the cam pin. So that area that is continually hitting over there, that's going to get stressed. So you want to have extra cam pins, and here's the thing: you want to have a backup bolt carrier, an entire backup bolt carrier. In the instance where the extractors broke while I was shooting, what I did is I just pulled out the bolt carrier, grabbed another one, threw it in the gun, and just kept training. Okay, so I don't want to have to try and change out an extractor, in the middle of a training session. I just want to have backup bolt carrier groups, right? Full bolt carrier groups that I can just throw into the gun and just keep working. Okay, so you want to have a full bolt carrier group, right? But then you also want to get these parts kits, right? These field repair parts kits. These are from Stag Arms. I've got probably about, I don't know, 6, 7, maybe 10 of these. Every time I order anything from either Palmetto or Optics Planet or some other sites, I look for these parts kits. They cost about $40, but they have a lot of stuff in there. It has spare extractors, spare disconnectors, little springs that you might lose, pins. So you want to get these field repair kits. So the whole thing costs $40, but it's got so many different parts in there that, like when you divide the price out, the price of an extractor, let's say, comes out to like $2 or $3. Okay, so as opposed to if you buy the extractor by itself, you're gonna pay like $15, plus shipping. So you want to get these field repair kits, right? Like this one here from Stag Arms, where it's got like a whole bunch of parts in there. It's got a firing pin, it's got a cam pin, it's got gas pins, it's got a cotter pin. There's a whole bunch of stuff in there. It's got trigger springs. So you buy the whole thing for $40, and you get like 20 pieces in there at least, maybe even more. And then that's a cheap way to have replacement parts. Okay, so that's what I recommend. Have yourself a full bolt carrier group that you can just throw into your rifle. Have yourself a trigger control group, right? This one's from ALG Defense. It has a trigger, has a disconnector, it's got the hammer. I've also bought a separate one that has a safety although I haven't seen the safeties go bad, but you know, I mean, you want to have all the parts anyway. But yeah, you definitely. But this is something that's going to wear. You got to have a full trigger control group. And when the trigger control group goes bad, just change everything. Don't try to guess whether it's the disconnector or the hammer or whatever. Just change the whole thing out, and get yourself a brand new one put in there. So that's why you need a trigger control group. You need a full bolt carrier group, and then you need this the field repair kit, and then that will take care of all your AR needs as far as, you know, parts that might go bad. And like I said, this is a lightweight gun. You know, this was not designed, you know, to just shoot hundreds of thousands of rounds and never break. Okay, this was designed to be a light gun that you can, you know, they wanted the lightest possible gun possible that you could, you know, run through the woods 5 miles, you know, and not be as tired. Because if you try to upgrade everything and try to make it indestructible, what happens is you end up with like a 12-15 pound gun. So it's more beneficial to have a lighter gun, and just change the parts out as you need to change them. Okay, so that's what I want to share with you guys. I wanted you guys to know what parts are going to break. It's not if, they are going to break when you start getting up into that 10,000 round count. Okay, the trigger group, and the extractor for sure, and then your gas rings, and possibly your cam pin, you know, and maybe even the entire bolt that might break as well. But if you guys have any questions, comments, feedback, put in the comment section. If you're not a member of the channel, subscribe. I'll see you guys next time.